Welcome to Community Cocktails with Kimberly, hosted by Kimberly Woodard, a realtor who's been selling homes in North Texas with more than 21 years of experience. Join her every first and third Wednesday of the month as she meets with top community leaders, local businesses, and real estate industry experts to help you get to know the area you want to call home. Don't just love your home, love your community. And now your host, Kimberly Woodard.
Welcome, viewers, to this episode of Community Cocktails with Kimberly. This is such a special episode because I have the owner of Real News PR, where I do my podcast, on Jeff Crilley. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. I'm so honored, and we've known each other for so long. But I got to tell you, I'm kind of uncomfortable because I'm usually the guy asking the question.
I know, not me. It's all about me asking you. So a fair game for me to ask anything.
No hold barred. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people are looking and they see a familiar face and they're trying to think, oh gosh, why do I know that face? And that's going to be from your news days on Channel 4.
Yeah. So I was a TV reporter for 25 years, Lansing, Omaha, Minneapolis, and then Dallas. I started with Fox 4 in 1992 and had a nice run there. I reported there for 15 years and finally quit in 2008 to start this company in my home.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, from 2008 to what you have now.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. This place is amazing. There's several studios in this place. Up on the 7th floor, looks over LBJ across from the Galleria. So you've got just a prime location here in Dallas. But you also have a couple other studios too.
We do. So we have Fort Worth, downtown Fort Worth. We have South Lake Town Square. And 2 months ago, we opened Austin with a beautiful, unobstructed view of the Capitol. So this little network that we started with just a few shows, and you were one of our first podcasters. We now have 160 different shows going on. Wow. To the point, Kimberly, when I can't even keep track of all of our clients. And so I remember not too long ago walking down the hall and running into somebody who seemed familiar to me, but I didn't know where I knew this person from. And I said, whose show are you going to be on? And they said, my show. Thank you for watching, Jeff. So now I just say, what's the show about today?
There we go. Well, let's talk about, news, what brought you to open up, the PR firm?
Sure. So I wrote a book in 2002, and the book is called Free Publicity, A TV Reporter Shares the Secrets for Getting Covered on the News. It's a tell-all book. Here's how you pitch the media. Here's when you should stay away from the media. Right. Here's how you talk in sound bites. This is what you should look like on camera. And I never intended to leave TV news. I was just going to moonlight and make a little extra money. Yeah. And I started this blistering pace of 300 speeches a year for 6 straight years in addition to my TV job. Wow. So breakfast speech, lunch speech, go to work at Fox 4. Breakfast speech, lunch speech, go to work at Fox 4. Wow. I ended up selling 70,000 copies of a little $10 book. And that's how this business was born. Because when you're that busy selling books, people are always trying to hire you. So I kept hearing the same thing. Man, if you ever get tired of this TV news thing, I want to be your very first client. Yeah. And about that time, they had me on Murders and Fires every night. It was very depressing. And, you're my wife's best friend. Yeah. So when I would come home and talk about my day with Victoria, she would say, what was the highlight of your day? And it was never news. It was always, I gave this speech in Burleson at a luncheon and sold X number of books. And so I think she saw the writing on the wall before I did, that my satisfaction in TV news was in steep decline. Yeah. And so at the ripe old age of 45, I'd gotten to the top of the little mountain I was climbing, and the little mountain was called local TV news. And I knew they weren't going to promote me. I was never going to be Clarice Tinsley. I was just going to be a street reporter for the rest of my life. So I asked Victoria's permission to quit. And I quit, and I started the firm in my home in 2008, laptop, cell phone, calling myself a PR firm. We didn't even have a physical office until 4 years in when we came to Lincoln Center. Yeah. So we had 2,200 square feet, and then we outgrew that, and we took on 5,000 square feet. We're now in 8,000 square feet of Lincoln Center.
Wow.
And it's become a decent-sized company, 20 full-time employees, and you've gotten a chance to know most of my employees.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a cool company.
It is a great company. I mean, everyone is great here. And I mean, every time, like I said, viewers, you're always asking, where is Kimberly doing this podcast? Where is she filming it? Because I know it's not out of her home. And when I tell my guests, and they come in, they're like, oh, wow. And so it is just an unbelievable studio.
Well, we're kind of reinventing podcasting. So when I think of a podcast, I think of either an audio product, right? Or if it's a video product, it's very homemade. It's a person at home with a ring light.
Yeah.
And as we started to look at this and started to grow this this department, we kept saying to ourselves, everybody who starts a podcast just wants to be the host.
Yeah.
They don't want to edit and upload and tag. That's the boring stuff.
No. I wouldn't even know where to begin.
So people come in here. They are now flying in from either coast, sometimes knocking out 2 or 3 changes of outfits and flying back. And then we edit, upload, and tag for just a few $100s per episode, which is a bargain price.
It is. I mean, basically, I come in, my guest sits down, we film, and then I leave, and the magic happens. That's why.
Well, if I can, you're really kind of a dream client and a dream show host, Kimberly, because you get it as a very successful realtor for many years with Ebby. You understand how important it is to market,
right? And
there's different ways you can market, but how many realtors can say, "Come on my TV show"? Right. So you have a very unique way of marketing your brand,
right,
but also putting spotlights on others, which is what you're doing today.
Well, and like I said, it's so fun, and I enjoy it because it's topics. It's all different topics, that not everyone wants to hear about how the real estate market is going every day. I mean, we also get that on the news. Right. Sometimes it can be depressing. Yes. So we want some uplift, interesting topics that people, may not, or interesting people that, people didn't know about, and bring, highlights, people in the community, people doing, great things, like yourself doing something great that, this company is, fantastic. Like I said, I like how, the podcast world with the video, because everyone does think, oh, it's just going to be the audio, I'm just listening. But there's another aspect of it when you see it on the video, and my viewers are seeing it on Facebook or YouTube, and they're watching that video, because I can insert different things in some of mine where we have examples of things that, what we're talking about.
Sure. Well, can I tell the story about how you started your show? Do you mind? Am I hijacking your show? No, so Kimberly called me 4+ years ago,
yes,
in December, and said, "Hey Jeff, this is when I normally work on my marketing,
right? Because
December tends to be slower for
right,
realtors." And so we met at Glen Eagles Country Club, that we both love, and we're both having a cocktail. And I said, "Hey, we just started this podcast division. Why don't you do your own show?" And we kind of laughed about it. And I said, "How about you like a cocktail? Why don't we call it Cocktails with Kimberly?"
Right.
And then a few minutes later, my wife joined us, and you guys started talking. And the next thing you know, it's Community Cocktails with Kimberly.
Yep.
And it's been really fun for me to watch you grow as a host, because I think in the early episodes, you weren't quite comfortable yet. You'd never done broadcasting. And so now you really own it. And when you walk in, you're in control. This is your studio. This is your team.
She is awesome. My producer is fantastic. I mean, she already knows what I want.
Yeah. But it's beautiful to watch how you've grown as a communicator. And I think this is really now part of your identity. And we get to see you a couple of nights a week at the country club. And I see all these very successful people saying, "Kimberly, I just watched your last episode."
And it's so fun. I mean, it's a fun show. And that's what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be fun, informative to viewers, and that, maybe one episode may not be the topic you want, but I've got a slew of other topics out there.
And what I love is that it's the variety of your guests, because you are just, one, I think you're naturally a curious person.
Yeah.
And so you're running into people from all walks of life.
Right.
And you're saying, you know what? That person has a story that probably hasn't been told before. And so if you go back through all of your episodes, you've met a lot of people.
I have. And, that's the beauty of this show is that I've met people, one of my episodes this year, we were in Fredericksburg. We're there at this little cute cooking store, of course, because of my son. We're all walking around, and there was this couple. They were entrepreneurs, and they developed this wine device, and where you click this device onto your bottle of wine that's is not cold. It's like just from the store, and when you pour it into your glass, it's chilled.
Wow!
And I thought that was phenomenal. So I started talking to them. And how, it was a company that was developed during COVID, and we've had so many of those. And we just started talking, and my husband, Glenn, was like, they would be a great, show, guest. And I said, you know what, they would be. And we had such a great conversation and really getting to know that couple and their story. And, there are so many other people that started businesses during COVID.
Yes.
And now have been able to quit. With this couple, the wife has quit her other full-time job and is doing this, product, marketing this product as her full-time job.
I think it's amazing. You never know who you're going to run into on Kimberly's show. I remember, was it Culver's ice cream? And they had the
Henry's.
The Henry's ice cream.
And Hirsch, yes. And Hirsch's Meats, both great places in Plano, local. Been there. They are the places to go in Plano. I mean, if you want ice cream, you go to Henry's. If you want, a meat market, you go to Hirsch's. I mean, everyone knows them. They've just had such a legacy.
And you've had both mayors on.
I've had the mayors. I mean, I've had just a lot of fun guests and just different things. I've got some ones up my sleeve for so stay tuned, viewers, that I'm not going to spoil the beans, but I've got some interesting things coming up as our year progresses, of topics and themes and all those good things.
Well, you're very talented, and I know that you're very sincere, and the guests that you have really become friends.
Well, I have to ask you. Sure. So we're talking about my guests. What about yours? What is probably one of your most memorable guests? And not me.
Sure. So I do a Jeff Crilley show. Yeah. In fact, I'll be doing an episode right after this taping, and I love it because I too am just curious about people. And so we've had everything from a gentleman who paints portraits of fallen heroes and presents them to the family. In fact, he would be a good guest for you.
Beautiful.
But that becomes kind of a treasured item in their home. And as I'm interviewing him, I'm starting to tear up because, it's so heavy with emotion because he has a way of capturing their eyes. And so the portrait really kind of comes to life. Oh, wow. And then I've interviewed children. Which is always fun.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
you never know what they're going to say.
Well, you've had your kids on.
Yes, but during COVID, I had Ben and I cooked. We baked chocolate chip cookies, one of his signature recipes, where he's taken the recipe and kind of dialed it up. And my other son, Blake, did the filming. We were kind of like, we were kind of like Pioneer was. She was doing the same thing, having her kids film. We did that. It was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think much like you, I meet people all the time just around, and I think everybody has a story. And so it's neat to be able to invite people on the show. And then as you're doing homework for the show, you're discovering all these amazing things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. To me, it's a real blessing to be able to put a warm light on somebody whose story might not be told by the mainstream media.
Right.
And so to be able to give them, a 20-minute spotlight is a real blessing.
So since we're talking about stories, everyone has a story. You have a story. Let's talk about what would someone not necessarily know about you? What's that like? hit it. I knew. I told him I was going to try to embarrass him.
Okay, so I have a hopeless romantic story about my wife, Victoria. So when I fell in love with Victoria, she's working in Wichita Falls, and I'm living in Dallas, and I happen to be a morning show reporter in Dallas, which means I had to be on camera at 6 in the morning.
Wow.
Well, I fell madly, hopelessly in love with Victoria, and I moved into her apartment in Wichita Falls without telling the TV station in Dallas. I think they would frown on the idea that their morning show guy lived 2.5 hours away.
Right.
And I commuted for 11 months, Kimberly. I commuted every single day. That's 5 hours in a car every single day to see Victoria. Wow. And she finally realized I was, becoming sleep deprived.
Yes.
And so she got a job at Channel 33 here in Dallas, and now we're just so incredibly blessed because we both left TV about the same time.
Yep.
She is now head of marketing for Highland Park Village. And
right.
I've got my marketing firm, and we're just so blessed. I fell in love with my soulmate.
Oh, I love that. I mean, but I don't know how you did 5 hours. There were probably a lot of audio, but
fortunately, the price of gas was low during that.
Yes.
Thank God. I think it was $1.25. So
I mean, if it was today. I mean, and now rising. Exactly. There was cringes when I go to the gas tank. I'm like, I have to fill it up. Well, I love that. I love I love a romantic story. It's always so fun.
And I get to work with my kids. So my daughter, Sarah, is my vice president. She's 33. My son, Dallas, is 30, and he's my head of business development. And my grandson, Caleb, who is 13 years old, last summer, he would sit at the front desk, and he would come around from behind the desk and look you straight in the eye, firm handshake, and say, "My name is Caleb Hill, future owner of this company." And when I heard he was doing that, I was like, wow, there could be like 3 generations working together. So I'm about to turn 60, which is a big number for that.
Yes, I'm glad you said that. I was not going to spill the beans, but you do have that birthday coming up in a couple of weeks.
So, Victoria and I celebrate our birthdays 2 days apart.
Yeah.
And she's just, she's a little older than yours.
Yes, she's older. We're still babies.
So yes, the idea that there could be 3 generations working together makes me think, okay, why would I retire in my mid-60s? I think let me just keep on going.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, Caleb will be ready, and like in 10 years he'll be like, move over.
That's true.
It's time for me to take over.
He's kind of a boss, and Victoria has no intention of retiring anytime soon, and so she's 11 years younger, and so I'm like, well, why would I, what would we do, sit on the couch?
I mean, nowadays, I think, founder of Ebby Holiday. I mean, Ebby was coming into the office at, 100,
Right.
So.
Was she 101 or 102?
When she passed, when she passed, I went to her 100th birthday, her 101th birthday, and then she started kind of slowing down. But wow. Can you imagine?
And she would still come to work.
She would still come to work. I remember, in her late 90s, if you saw the Ebby 1 license plate on the Cadillac going down the tollway, it was her.
I've got an Ebby story, and maybe you don't even know this one. So when I was out running around speaking and selling books, Ebby brought me in to speak and was impressed with my speech. And so I invited her to be on my television show on Fox 4. And I got this really nice handwritten note from Ebby. And the handwritten note basically said, "Mr. Crilley, thank you so much for, asking me to be featured on the news. But I have received so many accolades over the years. I think you should use your spotlight to put a spotlight on somebody else." And I don't think I'd ever seen that before.
Yeah.
From most people just, wow,
right,
be on the news. And she was just so giving that she felt like any spotlight on her would be missing a spotlight on somebody else. That was always her motto, is to give, do something for someone, every day. And she was really big on handwritten notes. And I have a lot of Ebby stationery, and it's
still something, I still write, notes to people. I just think there is something about that handwritten note, thank yous, things. So it is not a passive if you're thinking, oh, we're not doing that anymore, we're doing emails. No, that handwritten note still, even though people only check their mail maybe once a week.
Yes. and she set the tone for the entire company, and it still operates the Ebby way, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. It does. Well, Jeff, it was so fabulous having you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to success.
This is Topo Chico for those of you. Okay. Thank you, Kimberly.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple and Spotify, as well as Kimberly's YouTube channel. If you'd like to contact Kimberly directly, you can email her at kimberlywoodard@ebby.com or call 214-632-2092. We hope you enjoyed our guest this week, and remember, don't just love your home, love your community.